What's up, family? Thank you for tuning in to the DreamNation podcast. My name is Casanova. I'll be your host, and I'm excited to be bringing to you entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and trailblazers from around the world. Stay locked in with us because we're about to go on a journey that will change your life.
Good day, family. Casanova here, and today I'm excited. We're going to be talking about none other than real estate. Now, you all know we just started the season 3 of the DreamNation podcast. Can you believe it? 100 episodes in. People ask me, like, did I think that it would get this big? And the reality of it is I didn't, right? I didn't think that I would be able to impact the way that we have. But the reason why I wanted to do it is because I saw myself as a little bit of a Robin Hood, right? So what do I mean by that? I saw that there was an opportunity that I had to be able to connect with some of the world's brightest minds, thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and just people who aim to be change makers. Because I think at the end of the day, we all get inspiration from seeing someone who's done something that looked to be impossible. Right. I know that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. And so seeing people who break barriers, whether it's in race, whether it's in business, whether it's in mindset, I always love to see people who are doing their thing. And so for me, that was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to connect with those types of people. One, because of course, that meant that I would get business coaching. That meant that I would get knowledge from somebody who's already been there, done that. And two, that meant that I would also be able to give back to my tribe, which is all of you all. So that's the whole purpose of the DreamNation podcast. And through these 2 seasons, we've asked our audience, what is it that you guys want to hear more about? And one of the common topics that came up, and of course, it's because, I have a background in it, but was real estate. And it was surprising because for me, I've always just looked at it as, real estate as what I've done, but it's not why I get up, right? Real estate is the byproduct of my mindset. Real estate is the byproduct of what I'm really trying to accomplish in life. And for me, that's being able to leave something when I'm done, right? Yes, we want to leave life insurance, but I also wanted to leave an actual tangible asset. I wanted to be able to grow my legacy. I wanted to be able to grow my last name rather than just my first, right? So when I talk about legacy, I mean that if we could start businesses, I mean that if we could own property, if we could own land, who knows what the future holds for those that come behind us. And so for me, I wanted to be able to own this because I wanted my kids to be able to say, like, yeah, that business has been in my family for 15 years. And my dad started that business before he sold it off. And then we built this business, right? Or that property or that apartment complexes, we have owned that for however amount of time. And so I think that I always wanted that. And the other reason I would say, if I'm being honest, is because I understood early in my business career, right, that this country, at least for the United States, it's really primarily ran by 2 types of people, I should say. Number one is business owners, right? And number 2 is people who owned real estate. Right. It's all about the assets that you have, because if you look at taxes, we see right now there's a lot of big corporations that are getting a lot of loopholes in the system, whether you talk about the PPE program or PPP, the payment protection program, or whether you talk about any of this funding that's supposed to go to small to medium sized businesses, but goes to corporations. Not to say that no small or medium sized business was not able to capitalize on it, but we see that there is so much opportunity out there for the person who takes the risk, right? So for me, I understood that I wanted to own real estate as well, because when you own real estate, essentially you're giving something back to the government that they need. They need housing for people. So what do? When they allow you to build subdivisions and developments or whatever it is, a lot of the times there are tax credits and tax benefits that come with it. Why? Is because the government needs help in providing, suitable housing, right? The better the housing that you can provide, the more that you're going to get people that come in and want to live in it. And then you can get tax breaks on the front end, right? And you can also get tax breaks on the back end. So when you do your taxes. So when I talk about tax breaks on the front end, I'm talking about like tax incremental financing, which is like TIF funding. If you don't know, I definitely encourage you to look that up. But this is where a lot of people, when they start developing neighborhoods or communities, they're using a lot of city funding and taxpayer money, which is crazy because you're like, wow. But then they get all of the back end on it. So taxpayers are essentially paying a little bit on the front end, and then they're also paying on the back end as well. So how do you get those loops, right? Well, one, you got to build the right relationships, right? You got to know the people who are in your city council. You got to know the people who are in real estate, and you got to be able to have some mentorship of somebody who's done it before. The beauty of it is most of the time in real estate, people are definitely willing to help as long as they understand that you respect their time. And so for me, when I first got into real estate, I wanted to show that I could put in the work. I wanted to show that I could go build my own relationships. And through those relationships that I built, which is maybe at ground one, that I could then be able to get more relationships, be able to get more connections, and then be able to use those connections to get to ultimately where I wanted to be. So prime example, when I first got into real estate, yes, maybe I had to build it by serving my clients, right? Helping them buy or sell or even invest. And then as I did right by them, they're going to talk about me and become disciples for me, for my business, for the way that I do business. And then they're going to tell their other friends. And the saying goes, wealthy people know wealthy people, right? It could be said for anything. Smart people know smart people. Now, this is obviously a blanket statement. Don't get too technical on it. But the whole purpose is to understand if you're hanging out with the doctor, most likely they know another doctor. They speak the same lingo. They understand because they have the same struggles, right? So if you can help one and you can listen to that person and understand what their struggles are, and then you go try to fix those struggles for them, what's going to happen? Well, you know that they're going to tell someone else. And now when you get into that conversation with another doctor, now that doctor is going to understand that you know their pain points because you've already worked and helped someone else. And so the same thing could be said if you're talking to real estate agents and then you're going to investors and then you're going to developers, you'll make your way up that ladder. But it does take work, right? There was no success that was built overnight. So when people ask me about real estate, understand that it starts, right? It starts with your mindset, but then it has to go with what is your credit like, right? Because no matter what bank it is, no matter what, at the end of the day, you will need some type of credit. And what I always tell people all the time, I've been preaching it, credit is not, most of the time when you ask people what's credit, they talk about the monetary value. Right. And that's great, but credit's not the monetary value. Credit comes from credibility. Right. And credibility is everything in this world. It's my trust in your ability to make payments over time and on time. Right. Again, let me say that again. My trust in your ability to make payments over time and on time. Right. So this could be anything. Like if I let you borrow a pair of shoes, are you going to give those back at the day that you said you were going to give them back? If I let you borrow clothes, if I let you borrow a gaming system, any of that, like what's my trust in your ability? Will you be able to repay whatever said debt is? And so for a lot of people, they just think, oh, like it means that I got money. Like, no, that doesn't mean that you'll get money. It just means that you're a credible person, because a lot of the times it's not the money that's the best part of it. It's the reputation that you get out of it, because that reputation is going to take you so much further. Right? Those are the things that I always think about. It's not about what you know. It's not even about what you have. And it's not even necessarily about who you know. Although knowing people is great, right? Name dropping, it can help you in a lot of cases, but it's more importantly about what? About who knows you. Who's willing to put their stamp of approval on your name? Let's think about it. A lot of people, they're looking to get jobs. There's uncertainty right now because of this pandemic, depending on when you're watching or listening to this, right? And rightfully so. But when you go to get a job, when you go to better your situation, whatever, and you say, oh man, yeah, Casanova? I know Casanova. And someone says, oh, do you? Yeah, he's a good guy. He's always hustling. He's always working. You're like, yeah. I know. I've learned so much from him. And then let's say that person calls me up and they say, hey, do you know so-and-so? Let's just use the name, Joe right now. Do you know Joe? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of know Joe. He seems like a guy. I don't really know him like that, but he seems like a good guy. They're like, oh, okay. Right. And now what do you think your chances are of landing that job? I mean, it's a little bit better than if you didn't know me at all and I said I didn't know you, but it's probably about 50-50. They're going to do a lot more homework on you. Would you agree? Absolutely. They're probably going to call another reference or two. But if I say, oh, Joe, man, I've been knowing Joe since he was about yay high. I tell you, Joe is the truth. If you can get Joe on your team, you got to snatch that up right away. I tried to get him a couple times and he didn't want to come work for me because he just felt like that wasn't a part of his vision. But if you can get Joe on your team, man, that's solid right there. Now, let me ask, what do you think your chances are of being hired by, whoever it is, said person? They're a lot higher, right? Because I knew you. And where did that come from? That came from your credibility. So for a lot of people, when they're thinking about things, about getting a job, about starting real estate, or all these things, they only think at the surface level. I don't want you to just think at the surface level. I want you to think a lot higher than that. I want you to be thinking, how can I maintain my reputation and my credibility over time and make sure that I'm always on time, make sure that I'm always accountable, make sure that I'm always punctual, right? With what I say that I'm going to do. That's where it comes from. That's where the success comes from. Every day, there's going to be a grind. Every day there's a grind in something. If there's no grind on the physical, there's always a grind on the mental, because discipline, man, that's the hardest thing to conquer. It is every day getting up, doing what you said you were going to do when you just don't feel like it. There's no magic pill for that. It could be running. It could be not eating out. It could be going to the gym. I'm saying all these things that have to do with your health. Of course, we do know that health is wealth as well, but it could be following up on emails. It could be making sales calls. Whatever it is, it's the discipline. The discipline will get you there, and ultimately the discipline will keep you there. Talent can get you there, but without discipline, you will never stay. We see it with the greatest of athletes. We see it with LeBron. We see it with Steph Curry. We see it with Tom Brady. We see it with, it doesn't matter who it is. It's that mindset that you have that every day, I don't need to be the greatest, but I need to be a little bit better than where I was yesterday. It's that discipline that every day I got to teach my kid something new. Every day I got my kid watching me, right? And they want to see, how do I respond? How do I respond in this pandemic? How am I responding? They are watching. My younger brother, my younger sister, my parents, they want to see all of the tangible advice, all of the acumen, whether it's business acumen or personal acumen, all of the life lessons that they've tried to teach me. Will I respond? How will I respond? That is the discipline every single day. And it's not easy. So be thinking about that, because that discipline will then lead to your reputation, which leads to your credibility, which leads to you being able to do whatever you want, however you want, whenever you want. So I'm excited to be talking about real estate. I'm excited to be talking about how can someone level up not only their mindset, but how can they level up their generational wealth? How can they level up their legacy? A lot of the times when you have assets and you have relationships combined with discipline, the opportunities will come. They come every single day. But is your mind trained to see them, or is your mind trained to have fear so you pass up on them? Do you have that poor mindset, passing over opportunities repeatedly? That's what you got to be thinking about. When you make that decision, when you make that choice, today is my day, this week is my week, that's when it all changes. For me, when I lost my mom, when I lost my job, when I lost my home, I had a choice to make. My wife was now supporting me, not only financially, but she was supporting me emotionally. I had a choice to make. You have a choice to make. Is today your day? I would argue to say that it is, because you woke up. Jeff Bezos, at one time, Amazon was not what it is. Amazon was only a thought at one time, but he had a choice to make. Facebook was only a thought at one time, but he had a choice to make. Zoom, a lot of us use Zoom. Gaming, it doesn't matter what it is. Writing that book. At one time, it was only a dream, but you chose to take action. That time could be today if you choose to take action. So that's my thought of the day. I know there's a lot in there. Of course, real estate will be at the forefront of this podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about culture. We're going to talk about mindset. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about business. But I'm excited to debut the real estate part because it's not only going to be me, it's going to be a lot of people who have been a lot more successful than I have. There's a lot of people who have had a similar story, even a greater, comeback. A minor setback is a major comeback, and they've had that. And we're going to get the brightest minds on this real estate podcast. And it's going to be a part of the DreamNation segment, right? I believe that everything starts with the dream. Doesn't matter what it is. It has to manifest in your mind first, because once you conceive it, that's when you'll take action on it. And so I hope that you stay here rocking with me. That's all we got on this episode. We will release once, maybe even twice a week, depending on the feedback that we're getting. So please, if you haven't already and you have access to iTunes, head on over and search for DreamNation Podcast. Or you can go to DreamNationPodcast.com, leave us a rating, a review. That's the way that we know if we're giving value. We're going to be offering so much more resources and content, not only about marketing and business and how you can get your business off the ground if you're an aspiring or new entrepreneur, but also about real estate tips of how exactly you can build your portfolio no matter where you are. And again, I don't claim to have all the answers. That's why I partner with the experts, people who are a lot more savvy than I like to think I am. And we're going to get this information together. So that's all I got for you today. Stay rocking with me. And remember, in the dream we trust, but we must take action, or otherwise it's only merely a fantasy. I look forward to seeing you on the next one, and be tuning in every Monday and Thursday to the DreamNation podcast, where we talk about business and ultimately how you can live that life by your design. We'll see you on the next one. That's all we got for this episode. Thank you for sticking around. That truly means a lot to me, and hopefully that means that we delivered massive value on this one. If you haven't already, the way that you could say thank you to myself and the team is just by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review and a rating. That's what iTunes loves to see. That's how we get out there even more. And I would definitely be grateful for it. I know the team would as well. Do me a favor and head on over to DreamNationPodcast.com. That's where you're going to be able to find all of the resources that we talked about in today's episode, as well as more exclusive content. And you'll also be able to sign up to our email list, where we have more exclusive content. And we always love to hear the feedback from you all, because you're our tribe. So remember, in the dream we trust, we'll see you on the flip side.